I'm Will. Today we're going to talk about the Shanghai Auto 2023, and this is China.
No. This is Will's Boy Chat. Welcome to another episode of Will's Boy Chat. As you have no doubt guessed, my guest is Mr. Will, is it Sundin? Sundin of one of our favorite channels, the ChinaDriven channel. Welcome, Will.
Thanks for having me, and yeah, good to be here in Shanghai.
Good to be, yes.
Big city.
You're not based in Shanghai. Some people don't know.
No. I know, everyone knows that I'm not in Shanghai. I'm in Changsha, the best city. Yeah.
All right. So anyways, as Will was correct about one thing, which is that the topic of today's video is going to be the 2023 Shanghai International Auto Show, and we have each selected 3 cars from the show that we found to be, don't know how to put it, the most interesting, not necessarily our favorites, but ones that we really want to discuss. So, Will, as the guest, I will allow you to go first. What is your first model from the show?
Okay, so I thought about this a few times, and I changed my mind a few times, but the one car that was always in my list was the Neta GT. I think that, the price of it and the Hosen Auto or Neta before were a very meh brand, right? Their cars weren't very exciting, and now you walk up past their stand, they've got the Neta S and the Neta GT, which they unveiled, and all of a sudden you're like, boom, this is a sporty looking brand. It's a complete transformation, I think, really, these 2 car models for this brand, yeah.
It is. So I really liked the Neta GT. So for those of you who don't know, the Neta GT is allegedly, according to many sources, the world's first EV 4-seat coupe.
Yeah,
right? 2+2. I wouldn't call it a sports car. I haven't driven it yet, but I have to imagine it's probably not going to be a true sports car.
Yeah. But
it does have 2 forms: as a rear-wheel drive form, a rear motor form, and then a dual motor form with up to 340 kilowatts or around 500 horsepower almost.
Yeah.
So it is, the Neta S does 0 to 100 in 3.9 seconds or so. So it'll be fast, we know that.
Yeah.
And if you look at it, as I said, it's the first of its kind in the market. And so that alone, I think you're right. It makes it worth pointing out or worth talking about. And I think it looks really good.
But it's the price as well. They're saying that the rear-wheel drive model is going to start at just under 180,000 RMB.
Which is right under $25,000 or so, between 25 and 28,000 USD.
Up to, I think, 230,000 RMB.
Which is, so we're not even up to maybe $35,000.
Yeah.
Which is for again, a car that you literally can't get anywhere else. The only similar product that I can think of is the Leap S01, but it's totally different because, it's way smaller, way less power.
Yeah. Front-wheel drive.
Front-wheel drive. Yeah. And it also looks the way that it looks.
It looks like it backwards at the front. It looks like the rear of a car at the front of it. It's just such a weird front end. Yeah.
It does. I drove the S01. I didn't hate it. I loved it because of its uniqueness, but I definitely wouldn't choose it because it was also 180,000 RMB for the one that we drove.
But the thing with that is that Leap Motors' little T03 or whatever, that was rear-wheel drive.
Yes.
But then they made a sporty car and went, front-wheel drive for this one.
Well, the S01 was first, right?
Yeah.
And then the T03 came, and maybe they realized they messed up, but either way. So Neta GT, very good choice. I will continue by talking about my first choice. BYD Seagull.
Seagull, yeah, it was popular. A lot of people obviously interested in it.
Yeah. We found it hard to film the Seagull because there were so many people around it, and because it is such a small car. I mean, if there are 10 people around it, you can't see it. So it's 3.78 meters long. It's as big as, it's smaller than a Mini, for example.
Yeah.
It's considerably smaller, I think. Price between, they say 65 to 90,000 RMB, 11,500 to 14,000 US dollars. But there's talk that there's rebates that the dealerships can do to push it down to 60,000. So we're talking about something that's less than $10,000 for a car that, one, I think looks pretty great.
Yeah, it looks angular and a lot more kind of, Yeah, sporty than even say like the Dolphin, right? It looks really kind of angry, slashes everywhere in its body panels. Yeah.
It looks aggressive. It looks to me like, and this is what I said when our video comes out from the auto show. It looks like a plus size remote control car. Like I expect an antenna to come out of the back of it or at the top of the hood because it looks like just expanded version of something that I would have played with as a kid, and it also reminds me of that awesome segment of kind of not really sporty but kind of fun small hatchbacks that
BYD FO.
No, I wasn't thinking about that. I was going to say like Suzuki Swift.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's more buzz thinking.
You guys in the UK get to play with it, and we in the US don't. That's a whole segment that we don't have. So your Suzuki Swift and your Toyota Aygo and your Fiesta. We get the Fiesta, but it's just not that as popular. And so like I really like the way it looks, and the interior. The back seat space actually pretty decent for what it is.
Well, it's only 2 in the back, is it? It's strictly a 4-seater.
Yeah, I guess so. And then the front, it doesn't have a crazy huge screen. I think it's a 10-inch screen. But again, we're talking about a car that's, I think that's
about that big across, really.
I'm about to say, yeah, 10 inches. It looks massively huge inside of the interior.
Well, like there was at least 6 people in it trying to record when I was recording, so
we know what its potential space is because of the number of people that were actually trying to get around it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Seagull's definitely one of mine. What's your next one?
It has to be from the BYD stand. Technically, it's a concept. The Song L. I think it looks great. I really like it. I didn't think I was going to be that interested because it was like the names, the songs of the past. I mean, there haven't really been anything.
Let's give some context because there's definitely the song series, the song line is super important to BYD. They sold nearly 500,000. The BYD last year sold 1.85 million cars. Of those cars, 450 plus thousand, I think, were from the Song series. Either the Song Pro or the New Energy version or whatever. Basically some version of the Song SUV. It was hugely popular.
Yes.
Long waiting lists. And so it's interesting, yes, for them to. That's why I think they're putting out this cool concept car and labeling it as a song. Let's take a second to debate. This was a huge question among media at the show. What kind of car is it? Is it an SUV? Is it a sedan? Is it a hatchback?
It doesn't matter.
That was my okay. Good.
Right? I mean, like when we talk about cars, we review cars. We're like, this is a crossover. This is an SUV, or it fits into this segment or that segment. But at the end of the day, if you like a car and it suits you, it doesn't matter. Like the Zeekr 001, like what is that? Like
they say shooting brake.
They say shooting brake.
Not really.
I say chunky hatchback. I mean, you know what? I think if it suits what you want, right? If it's big, if you want something that's big and it's big enough, then that's good enough. I would say it's kind of a mid-size crossover, right? But it looks quite low. But then again, it's a concept car, so that could change.
Yes. I'm sure that they could make a lot of adjustments and make wheels smaller and make all these things, these changes. And I will say, you're right. I was surprised with how much I liked it as well, especially the front end. To me, I complained to the people at BYD about this actually when I had the chance. I feel like I'm a little confused with the design of it because it's called a Song, but technically the Song is part of the Dynasty series. Yeah. But the design and styling of that car is much more similar to their line of Navy, like
the Ocean series.
Ocean.
The Destroyers.
The Destroyers. So there's the Ocean series, which is made up of cars like Seal, now Seagull, and then also the Dolphin and soon-to-be Sea Lion, the Seal's SUV version. But they also have a series that is not going to be sold abroad, almost certainly, and that is cars like which is basically the BYD, the Qin and like Qin Pro and New Energy are sold as the Destroyer 05, I believe. Yeah. And then there's ones like the Landing Ship is going to be their MPV apparently. And there's one that's like the Frigate or something. Yeah. Is the SUV, which is basically a Song. Yeah. And so I'm very confused about their marketing with that. But those of you who are abroad will almost never going to see those cars. But I was just saying that I feel like it confused the design language of the Ocean series or the Dynasty series, and then these Destroyers and stuff like that.
But you're talking as if like the BYD lineup makes like good sense and is easy to understand, right? You know, so I think, you know, I just took it as at face value, and I was surprised that, you know, the dark and A-pillars, the way that the roof wraps around, I thought, yeah, it looks really sporty. Yeah, I was really, really surprised. And it didn't have Build Your Dreams on the back.
It didn't have Build Your Dreams, which we did. We have spoken to some people from BYD. We are trying, you guys. We are doing our best to represent what is a common thought, which is that we need to get rid of Build Your Dreams on the rear of those cars. And we have talked to the highest placed people at BYD that we can. In mass, as the you know, whatever number of foreign media we are, have tried to tell them. So we're doing our best for you, we promise. I'll go to my next one, which is, this is why I don't want to title this video favorite, but rather ones I want to talk about. Did you have a chance to see the M Hero 917? The Mengshi 917?
Is that Dongfeng's...
The Dongfeng, new Dongfeng brand.
Off-road...
Yes.
Brand. Yes, I did walk past it. Yes, it was. Yes, but they were all kind of up in the air. There was only one at the back you could kind of get close to, and it was crowded. You just look forward to my video, but I will give you a bit of a peek into what this vehicle is. Now, are you a gravy seal? And by that, I mean, are you a overweight middle-aged man that likes to cosplay as a member of Special Forces? This is the electric SUV for you, because it is itself cosplaying as a military vehicle. It's supposed to look like some kind of MRAP or something else like that. Yeah. Like there's the Patton is what it's sold as in China, and it's like the Rhino XRV thing. These things where it's like not actually bulletproof, it's not actually bomb-proof, it's not actually capable or utilitarian as a military vehicle, but it just wants people who played too much Call of Duty when they were younger and just have never grown up and really want to spend way too much money on an SUV. This thing is between 600 and 700,000 RMB. The previous information was that it was even more expensive than that, more like $1 million. And maybe there will be more expensive versions, but at least what they told me on the stand was when it hits the market, and it will be going for sale. They insist 600 to 7,000 RMB, which is like, we'll say 85 to maybe 85 to maybe like 100, a little over $100,000. For that you get, on paper it sounds like pretty good specs. 800, there's two versions. Extended range EV or pure EV, 800 kilowatts, the pure EV version. So 1,000 horsepower more or less. And then the extended range version only has 600. So the EV version does 0 to 100 in 4.2 seconds. It's dual motor. It's got all this stuff, but none of that bothered me, even though it wasn't particularly interesting or impressive. Have I told you? Do you know what the size of the battery is in that car? No. What?
142 kilowatt hours.
That's gonna be heavy.
Yes. Yeah, it's going to be grossly overweight. I know it's not as offensive as the Ram whatever, and that we were talking about the other night. That's 229 kilowatt hours, but that's a separate thing. America, baby. But 142 kilowatt hours. Do you know what the range is, though? 500 kilometers.
It's just probably it's just too heavy for itself. Like too.
It also probably has the aerodynamic profile of a box. So. That is not the thing that bothered me the most, though. It's when you get inside, and it also looks like it was designed by a 14-year-old boy. And
See, I didn't get inside. I didn't see inside it.
The door. This is where we're going to play the footage of the door handles on the inside, because they are literally shaped like a big Glock handgun.
Oh, I did see that. Oh yeah.
A big Glock handgun. I think that they designed the electronically opening doors to make a noise that sounds like a bullet being put into a chamber of a gun,
like cocking.
Clink, clink, clink. It is. I am deeply, profoundly bothered by the existence of this vehicle, and it's one of those things where, like, you go to that show and you go to see like the Yangwang U8 from BYD, and you're like, this is crazy. It's got quad motors, not two. It's got quad motors. Yeah. It's got all this incredible technology, and then it feels like it'll swim or whatever. And then you go over to the Dongfeng thing, and they're like, we do that too. just like not as good. So hopefully this doesn't get me uninvited from the 917, the M Hero 917, to be clear, is the model, the brand and model name. Doesn't get me uninvited from the launch event so that I can continue to rail against it.
But it's also like matte, is it not a matte black finish on the whole of it as well? Yeah.
Yes, of course, because that's the only thing that's the cool thing, I guess. But anyways, let's let you do your third vehicle.
So these are just vehicles, again, I think that need to be talked about is probably the XPeng G9, not G9, G6, the XPeng G6, because I think that it's a return to a price point that XPeng should be at, and I think that for XPeng they should definitely be praying that this is going to be a volume seller for them.
Yeah.
Because you were there on the media day. You know the P5 wasn't present on the media day.
That's right. I only just realized that.
Yeah.
There were no P5s in the stands. It was P7s, G9s, and the new G6.
Yeah, the red-headed stepchild.
The red-headed stepchild. Yes, the design that doesn't make sense in context of any of their other vehicles.
They rolled it out for the public days. They did roll it out for the public days, but
that's the one that they sell.
That's the one they sell. Yeah. But yeah, I just think that. You know, it's really important for them. It's going supposedly it's like 200 to 300,000 RMB.
Right. It's about 30 to 45,000.
Similar
USD.
pricing to a little bit cheaper than maybe the P7i. But that's the price that it should be in.
I think we know now the starting price is supposed to be 230,000.
Right. So that's exactly the same, isn't it, as the P7?
Yeah, it's pretty much exactly the same. Which 230,000 RMB is somewhere around 35,000 USD, we'll say.
Yeah.
Maybe a little over 35K or around there.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. First of all, I think we disagreed a little bit. I thought it looked quite good, especially in the really awesome orange color.
The orange color is cool, but
yeah, I would only have it in that. And it's hard to get me excited. It's hard for me to get excited at all about coupe SUVs at this point because they're so prolific. But I think that it reminded me a lot of an EQ series car just because it was so roundy.
Yeah.
So kind of bow shaped, but I didn't mind it. I mean, it wasn't something that I'm gonna lust after or think about for a long time. But I thought it looked pretty good.
It's a very smoothish kind of bubble vehicle, but I think it's a segment that they need to do well in, and I think that it's important for XPeng this car, right? That's why it was important at the show, right? So, because I mean, the Neo ES6.
Yeah. We'll take a second to talk about that. First of all, I want to reiterate what you're saying, which is it's really important for the reason the G6 is important. It's not because it's a coupe SUV or because it's an EV coupe SUV. It's because it's XPeng getting back to where their price point should be. Yes. I completely agree with that. The G9 they've realized, I think, too expensive.
And they've had pushback and it's not selling well.
Yes. Yeah. And so I think that was hopefully that will be more of a volume seller for them. But the ES6 is not, the Neo ES6 is not on either of our lists here, right?
Yeah, it's not because it's bad. It's just, it's exactly what I thought, and I think everybody else thought it would be. And that's not a bad thing. It's just, you can't say it's a standout when it's just exactly as you think it's going to be, right?
Yeah.
The only thing that did surprise me about it was I thought they might.
You had an interesting concept of what you thought they might do with this new generation of ES6, which I thought was a good idea. What was it?
So I thought they were going to kind of push it down a little bit more towards kind of the ET5. So the ET5 doesn't have the air suspension, doesn't have like things like acoustic double pane glass. And I thought they were going to push it down more and make a bigger difference between it and the ES7.
Right.
But they haven't done. And I think they haven't done because of the first ES6. So I don't think they can make a new ES6 and make it worse than the first ES6.
True. It's true. I mean, if you were an existing ES6 owner and then they came to you and said, hey, you can get another ES6, but it's not going to have optional air suspension. Yeah. It's not going to have all these things. It's a pretty awkward position to be in. We overheard some rumor mill stuff about the fact that allegedly the ES7 was initially supposed to be a replacement really for the ES6 Performance.
Yes.
And then the ES6, the the new ES6 is supposed to basically replace the ES6 Sport.
Yes.
But that doesn't
didn't work out,
really
no.
happen. So the ES6, the new one's going to have air suspension, optional air suspension, not standard, and all these things. And so yeah, I don't.
It's a little bigger as well.
It is a little
wheelbase.
bigger. The wheelbase is also slightly longer than the ES7.
Yeah.
The ES7, which is an interesting choice. And so I guess I'm not sure what separates the two, or what would be the justification for going and buying an ES7, unless you literally were like, I'm assuming that the ES6 is probably not going to have the 480 kilowatt dual motor version. They're probably going to have a maybe 400 or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, not yet. Obviously, all the specs aren't out about it.
Right.
And look, it's the ES6 was a popular car for for Neo, so I expect this one also to be popular for Neo. But
Absolutely.
yeah, it's just they unveiled exactly what you thought they would unveil, right? So it wasn't. The thing about the Neta GT, for example, is that there's completely left field for that car company.
Yes.
A year ago, if you walk past their stand, it was completely different. There was nothing really to get excited over. And now they've got a sports sedan and a sports car or a sports coupe or whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah. So I'll wrap it up with my final choice, which is, and I went back and forth because there are a lot. It's hard to narrow it down to just three. But one I think is worth talking about is the Zeekr X.
Yeah. Okay.
So Zeekr X is obviously the latest brand model from Zeekr. Zeekr being a sub-brand of Geely, I think it's interesting for good reasons and bad reasons, and I think it offers an opportunity for us to talk about a larger topic. But I'll start with why I think it's interesting for good reasons, and that's the fact that they are taking it to the European market. It is going to be Zeekr's first push into the EU, and those more Western markets. And I think for that market, it makes quite a bit of sense.
It's a good size. Yeah,
it's a good size. It's a very compact, basically hatchback or tiny SUV. I'm sure they'll probably try to sell it as an SUV because that's more popular to sell it that way. But so it's small, but it feels inside quite premium. The material qualities were quite nice. Who knows with the production version or anything, but the material qualities are quite nice. The features seem pretty reasonably spec'd. 27,500 to about 32,000 or 33,000 USD here in China. So I would hope that they would try and keep it relatively similar to that. You know, when they get to the European market.
I think that's why they've kind of got it, this kind of cheaper vehicle to kind of spearhead in. Because I don't think they're not going to take the 009, the MPV to Europe. That's not.
There's no market for it.
Yeah, so the 001 is going to be costly once it lands in Europe. If you go by how much a BYD Han is or a Neo ET7, then you're looking at like 60,000 euros or more for it.
Yeah.
So I think it's potentially could become in at a decent price point in a popular segment for Europe. Yeah.
Those are the reasons that the good reasons that I think it's worth talking about, which is that I do believe it could be quite popular. It does take Zeekr's premiumness, and this is maybe we should get into the bet. One, that price is very attractive for what they're offering. It's also considerably cheaper than every other Zeekr.
Yeah. That's
to the point where it starts to make you say, wait, I thought Zeekr was a premium brand. Because if you're going to offer this car for 180,000 RB or 27,000 or whatever, 28,000 US dollars, but then you're also going to have the 009, which is going to go up to 100,000 almost.
Yeah.
And the 001, which is considerably more expensive, it starts to kind of make the positioning of the brand feel a little bit confusing. And you can get away with that if you're a BMW and have the 1 Series or Mercedes with the A-Class, though Mercedes at least is cutting back on their more affordable models, aren't they?
Yes.
And so even they recognize that that's not where the profitability is in terms of their market. But it also, Geely. So we don't have time this should be a whole video. But Geely has too many brands. Their market positioning to me is very confusing. It's not very clear. It overlaps too much. Zeekr's look like Lynk & Co models. I was very excited about the Zeekr X when I first saw it because I said, finally, a Zeekr that looks like a Zeekr. So the Zeekr 001 was just a Lynk & Co concept car. They just decided to turn into the Zeekr.
Yes.
The 009 is from space, right?
Yeah.
It looks like nothing.
It looks like, yeah.
It looks like nothing else on the road. So you can't say that looks like a Zeekr. The X rather. Also, I guess we should probably talk about their naming structure, which doesn't make a lot of sense at all. But either way, the X, I was so excited because I thought, okay, this has hints of Geely and it has hints of Lynk & Co. But it doesn't. It feels like something relatively original.
Right. It's going to be like the start of their styling.
Exactly. It's going to be the like. This is the future of the styling for the brand. Then I walked by the Lynk & Co booth and I saw the new Lynk & Co 08. And I thought, boy, that looks familiar because it looks very, very much like a Zeekr X. And I realized, once again, they had just used the same styling language, as far as I could tell, or a very similar styling language for their other brand, which it just feels very... they're just cannibalizing themselves, and I think just making too many brands and getting way out over their skis. And what they did basically 10, 15 years ago, they made Geely did this, and a bunch of Chinese brands, to be fair, made a bunch of sub-brands, and those sub-brands are gone now.
Yeah, they went brand heavy. But I have to, I push back a little bit about, Zeekr's maybe a premium brand. I wouldn't say just because the Zeekr X is cheaper that it doesn't necessarily feel like a premium product, because I think for its price, when you sit inside it and you feel it, I think it does feel premium for the amount of money they're asking for it. Whether or not the amount of money they're asking for it is because of the recent price cut wars, and therefore it's being price cut before it's even launched, they may have intended for it to actually go on sale a lot higher than it does.
That's fair. That's actually a good point. Obviously, we all know that there's the price war going on, so it might be that they thought we were going to sell this at 250,000 RMB and not 180,000. But here's where we are. It is what it is.
How much is an ID3 in China?
Starts at about. So I think it starts at like 145,000.
ID Pro must be roughly the same price than the Zeekr's starting at, right?
Yeah. And can you fathom picking an ID3 Pro over that Zeekr?
No, the interior materials are awful, right? Just so. In that way, it is actually premium.
Yes. Well, I think we've roughly talked for 45 minutes, so we'll wrap it up.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for being a guest on Wheels Boy Chat.
Thanks for having me.
We appreciate it. Guys, check out ChinaDriven on YouTube. I'll put a link in the description below. Thank you so much for watching the video. As always, comment with your thoughts on the topic and the things we had to say, what you agree with, what you disagree with, and then, of course, future topics you would like us to talk about. Thanks again for watching. See you next time.